All right, let's get it rotated and indicated. You know, working these guys right here has got me thinking. I think another cool part that we can make for our vise right here, remake these guys. I think I would like to have this instead of having the, my apologies, I have a phone call I've been expecting. So anyway, I think what I was talking about here was these guys right here that you use to clamp the vise down. You know, this is, it looks great. It matches the meatball that's on the end of the spindle. But I think this could possibly be a fun project to make later on for the vise here, because the way that I would like it is to actually have a hex up here, just like these flange nuts, where I use an actual wrench to loosen this thing up and move it around. So just some of my personal thoughts on the subject that we can maybe visit later on. All right, that looks pretty close right there. And of course, we'll set an indicator up and run it back and forth across here to get that trammed in nice and straight, and start getting our shapers set up for the cutting. Let's see how straight I got it right out of the gate. Not very straight at all. About 60 thousandths. Honestly, I think some of that movement is in the table because it keeps jumping about a thousandths. I've got it within a half a thousandths, so I'm going to leave it there, but we are going to go ahead and snug it some more, because I'm afraid that those clamp bolts move it a little bit as you tighten it down, since it's all cast, not machined surfaces in there that it's pulling on. Yeah, I think we're going to leave that. It's jumping around about a half a thousandths, but I think we're good. So half a thousandth side to side there. We're going to call that good. Now we got to get our clapper box swapped out for the other one. Take the lantern out. And then there's a slotted swivel bolts inside there, kind of like we machined for the hardtail here. I got this tool that I use to get it out. Looks just like the swivel bolt we made, except smaller, and it's got a slot on the end. Okay. There it is. All right, this can be a little tricky. It's kind of heavy with that bar mounted to it, but I think we can handle it. See if we can get it started. I think we got it started. Got to get centered up on it. There we go. Let's just lock this in here for now. I think it's gonna, we'll keep it straight up and down probably for most of our cuts. I just want to make sure this is locked into the shoulder good. All right. So that's how this is set up for going inside. I machined both of the bars that I have and both of the nuts that lock it on. And we take this one off because this one's too short. I'll show you how I've got the back of it machined. There's a flange on it, and I've got a pin in there with some holes drilled. So I believe I got it to where you can turn the bar or turn the tool, I think every 15 degrees if you want to. So you can set it at a 15, 30, 45 degree angle, or turn it 90 degrees to the side. I never did make an actual wrench for this thing. It's something that I need to do. But I got this non-sparking pipe wrench that I use on it. I think this came from the Navy Yard. It's got USN on it. There's our nuts. And then if we pick this up, it'll slide right out the bottom, just like that. And there's the back end with the flange and your indexing holes. Like I said, I got a dowel pin in the very top dead center there. So when you stick it in there, you can line it up and your tool is straight up and down, or you can index it. You can index it every 15 degrees, I believe. Let's see. 15, 30, 45, yeah, something like that. So you can definitely go every 45 degrees to each side of the center. All right, so there's our long bar that we're going to use. I forget how long it's been since we made these. A few years anyway. All right. All right, so there we go. And then the nut just keeps it all pulled together there on the clapper box. And typically whenever you're doing the internal cutting like this one has a set screw over on the side, and there's a divot in the clapper box, and you tighten that set screw all the way in there and it keeps that locked. Otherwise, if you don't, when you come in and do your cuts, sometimes the bar will actually jump up and not actually cut your part. So it's got to be locked in. And that's typically the only time that you actually lock your tool when you're using a shaper tool. I've been over here filing this square hole that we broached. I had never used this bar before. This would be the first time. And I've been using this square file to go in there and just kind of dress the inside of that just enough to get our tool bit, because the tool bit was actually tight going through there. I couldn't get it to just slide. And I think I've got it filed now that I can get it all the way through there. So I found this piece of 1/2-inch Momax that I'll be able to cut it, because I can't use the full length there. I don't think that'll work. Yeah, we'll have to cut that. So I might just cut it in half or so, and I need to grind it. And I'm still trying to decide on how I'm going to grind the tool. There's really not a lot of area inside this casting that I have to work with this bar in there. So things are going to be pretty tight moving around. I'm thinking what we may do is try to grind an exact 90-degree tool. you know, 45 degrees on both sides from center, and try to get it lined up so that we're cutting down and across the bottom in the same configuration to make the 90-degree angle. So I think I need to try to get our tool and make sure our bar is set on exactly 90 degrees, or I'm sorry, not 90 degrees, 45 degrees is kind of what I was thinking at, an angle about like that as we're going through our workpiece there. So lots of little things that take up a lot of time. I'm going to continue getting all this stuff set up and ready to go. And I'll show you a little bit of the tool grinding and setup, but there's a lot of time involved with doing this kind of stuff, so I don't want to spend too much of it on the little fine details. I want to get the vise positioned so that I can start getting my tool figured out. We're going to be raising this table way up here, probably higher than I've ever had it actually. I think we're about at the top limit of our travel here. I don't want to overshoot it. You definitely can't go much more because then you're going to be getting into the way wipers there. And I was looking at the support here. It's just about at the end of it. So I think we're about as high as we're going to get it. This is what I was talking about. There's lots of things that you have to take consideration, and sometimes it takes a while to get your setup done. And it looks like we've got even more to do. We may end up having to make some spacers for this thing to sit on to bring it up higher so that our bar can get in there and cut the bottom side. I think we could reach the top, but it'd be better if we can just get our workpiece up higher so we can lower our table down to a more suitable level. It just occurred to me that we have a tool head that we can lower down. I think that this might work the way it is. You know, we got a good 4 inches of travel on our tool head there. I'm just so used to it always being sort of all the way up in an upward position for maximum rigidity, but I think this might work. Just might work. Been getting the stroke and stroke position set. Using my tool bit here to kind of line everything up. That tool bit is still tight. You can go in one position, it seems to work. All right. That should do it right there. I don't think we're gonna have to raise this up. I am at the upper limit of our travel. I don't know how much more we got, but it can't be much more than maybe a 1/4 inch or so. So we may end up lowering it back down just a touch. And just use our tool head to get down here like we need to. So I'm just kind of looking at the tool bit, seeing, you know, how much I'm gonna have to end up cutting off of it. Run it back through this side. Yep. I think this is going to work. So I'm going to keep moving forward with our setup the way it is. I need to get this tool bit figured out, get it cut. We need to get it ground. So I'm just going to keep working on it. All right, so I've been grinding our tool bit there, trying to make a nice 90-degree tool. We've got some back relief, some rake machined into it too. Not machined, ground. All right, and I'm using this Fireball tool, magnetic 123 block. And these blocks they're always very useful for so many things: fabricating, machining, setups, all kinds of stuff. But I'm using it as a reference for both planes, both sides of the tool. So I'm just laying it up there since I know that this is a nice flat surface there. I'm just kind of lining up the bottom edge to see if it's parallel with the cut. It's, with my eyes, it's as parallel as I can make it. So we can take it and stand it up on this side as well. It's got the magnets in there. And you can stand it up on that edge, and I can bring it down there. I know this is hard for you guys to see this. And that light back there is not helping things either, probably. But when I run the tool down there and rest it against the side of the 1, 2, 3 block, it looks like that it's lined up vertically nice and straight, okay? So I feel good about our grind. I think it's gonna be plenty close enough for getting this cut in there, all right? So now I can take and cut this side off and remove the excess tool bit that we don't need. And I think that's gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is get this corner, I'm sorry, this side cut first, and then we'll move over, we'll index it around, and I'll probably have to touch it up for this side because none of this stuff is absolutely perfect, you know? So I'll have to kind of touch it up like I'm doing with the block to make sure that it's square against the bottom and square against the side. And then we'll cut that side, and then we'll have to do the same thing for the top. So it's gonna be a little bit of a challenge doing that, but I think we can make it. I was doing so good, not making any mistakes, and bam, look at that. I snapped that tool right on off there. So I was gonna bring it back through there, and I forgot that the tool bit was sticking up out of that side. That's why I needed to cut it off, but I just totally forgot at that moment, and it snapped it off there. I don't think it hurt anything. I didn't have the clapper locked in yet, so it actually, whenever it bumped into it, I could see it pick up like that, but then I heard the crack and it snapped the tool. So the tool's gonna be fine. It didn't damage the cutting end or anything. I just need to dress that side. But I do need to check the alignment of the vise. We need to tram it back and forth and make sure I didn't move it. And if it did, just line it back up again. So luckily nothing major happened right there. And I didn't even engage the clutch very much. I just started pulling the lever and it started coming back, and that's when I heard it snap, and this is what you got. So you gotta always stay focused and keep paying attention to everything that you're doing on these soul shapers, or any machine for that matter. But it's really easy to overlook some simple thing like that and hit or crash or do something to either workpiece or damage the machine. This is gonna be a little tricky to show, but I'm gonna do my best to get you some shots of the action. I think we're ready to start cutting this corner right here. I've already got it touched off, and what I'm gonna do is just feed it that way across the bottom. And I've got an indicator set up over there, so then we feed into our 0, we should be getting into the sidewall right there. And that one I'm gonna probably kind of do by hand, just a little at a time, each stroke, until we get it cleaned up. But we'll feed it across, or feed it that way, 20 thousandths per stroke. It's just cleaning up that little spot right down there in the bottom is all we got to do. But I've got the stroke set to go all the way across, so once we start cutting the side, it'll actually cut this side and the front side with every pass there. So let's give it a shot. I'll start off right here. No, the ram is going to hit the camera, so I got to get you guys in a different position. We'll start with this and see if y'all can see that. I think I'm ready to go. A little nervous about all this. This is a little sketchy. By the way, I did tram the back. It didn't move the vise. Wanted to point that out. We're still good and square where we had it. The clapper box and the tool bit took the brunt of the force when I hit that tool. All right, just touching it there. We're not taking a deep cut either. It's getting heavier because it's getting into that corner. I'm gonna do this by hand. Got 10 thousandths. There's my 0. Yeah, and it's just barely coming up to that side right there. All right, well, we got our first inside area finally cut there. Now we can use our height gauge to measure this. I had measured it before we started. We had 100 thousandths to take off of that. .408, so we've got 58 thousandths still to come down. All right, I'm working on this pass now, and then when this one's done, I'll have a finished pass to make through there. I'm just finishing the floor first, and then I'll probably come and do the side after that. Like I said, we're gonna get this corner done, then we're gonna get that corner done. It's a slow-go process, and this one's actually proven to kind of be tricky to share with you guys. Me filming it by myself anyway. I kind of need Abby out here helping me get some of this filmed, but she is out of town right now, so I'm working alone. So far my setup seems to be working pretty good though. Doesn't take long to get across there. See the indicator coming in now. We're gonna let it go one more. All right, I just disengaged the feed right there, and that last 10 thousandths, I'm just bumping the handle by hand. So we got about 8 thousandths still to come off the floor. And go ahead and make an adjustment and make that final pass. When we get down to the bottom, I may leave it right where it's at and just feed it by hand over into the side to kind of start cleaning that side up there. All right, we got that floor finished on that side, and what I'm doing now is I'm just feeding, I'm letting it stroke a couple of times. I'm feeding that way about 5 thousandths each time. to see if it's going to cut that side. I don't know if it can handle the full width of cut, or we're going to have to, you know, feed down to the bottom. But I'd like to kind of keep the tool where it's at. So I'm just doing this guy right here. I'm looking at that indicator. I need to set one up over on this side. I'm just taking about 5 thou. It's starting to hammer on it pretty good now. So it may, I don't know yet, let's see. It sounds like shatter. It may be trying to pull into the bottom. I may be messing myself up right there. I don't know if it's trying to deflect and push down. Let me get another measurement on that and see. I may need to bring my tool up just to about 5 thou, get it off the floor. No, it's right on 350, 349 right there. It just looks like it's trying to bounce across the bottom. I'm not sure. So I did an initial measurement. I measured the casting side to side, and I figured that we had approximately 237 thousandths to take out of the width. Divide that two, that's 118 thousandths. So that's what I'm doing. I need to get one side cut so that we can establish a reference point to measure off of. Let me keep going with this and seeing if it's going to work. Yeah, see. I need to take this up. I don't want it to dig in. I took it at one division there, just trying to get it off that bottom. Doesn't help that you can't see it. That may have helped. Seems to be working pretty good. We're cutting this side now too. I just can't see the indicator. I need to get one over here. Really would be sweet if we had some kind of DRO on this machine. I have the machine set up to cut this other corner over here now. I just got everything set up off camera because it takes a little while to get all this going. So I took the tool bit out, I ground it properly, and I actually gave it more relief on the bottom side since we're feeding across. I gave it a little bit more relief, and then whenever we go into the side and cut this out, I'm gonna lift it up off the bottom about 10 thousandths because I could tell that it was trying to pull down. So that back area back there actually is dropped down in there a few thousandths deeper than what I wanted it. So I'm gonna try to avoid it on this side. So anyway, we'll set up and go ahead and get going. I've got a mirror right here. I'm having to use that to kind of get in there and see it because now that we're over here operating it, I can't see the tool bit like I did when I was over here. All right, so I'll be kind of looking through here like that, like we need to. Where's the tool? There we go. So something like that right there, we'll be able to see it. All right, we'll get you set up and let's go ahead and get this bottom side. Let's get this bottom side cut. The first pass is going to be taking 20 thousandths off the bottom. I was probably a little too far away. There we go. All right, we're making chips now. Okay, didn't like that. I've got a dial indicator set up over here. All right, that's my 0 that I established right there. Yep, taking us right to that corner. And it's cutting that one too. So this is where it gets a little bit tricky. I got to put a mirror in there. This handle is not very user-friendly on this. It's got a spring mechanism in it, and you have to push it by the hub of the handle to get it to stay in there. Okay. That's pretty good there. All right, we'll reset our depth, and I need to measure it and see where the depth is at first. Another one that I can't see, I'll just slide it back, and 417, so 50, so 67 thousandths is approximately what we got to come off the bottom. About 67 thou. Get down to my final cut on that bottom, on that opposite side there. Just gonna get a measurement here and see. It looks like we got about 5 thousandths to come off the bottom. I'm gonna call it 5 thousandths. And it's looking better on that side because of the relief that I gave the tool. So it's just cutting on the corner of the tool instead of all the way across the bottom edge of it. So I know it's hard to see it, but it actually looks a lot nicer. All right, so I'll bring this thing down 5 thousandths and make that finished cut on that bottom there. All right, I should have one cut left. Let me get in here and see what we're measuring. 355. So we got 5 thousandths to come off of it. Let me do that one more time. 355. All right, so we'll take it down 5 thousandths and I'll make a finished pass across this. All right, so I've made my finished pass across the bottom right there. I was 1 thousandth higher than what I wanted, so I'm just gonna call that good enough. So we're gonna use this guy right here. This is a shop-made planer and shaper gauge. And so we've already got a cut established right here. And we've already cut this side. So we're wanting to cut this side to bring it out to our 3-inch width. That's what we're shooting for, about 3-inch 5 thousandths. So we're gonna stick this guy in there. Hopefully get it kind of squared up nicely. That should be close enough for now. We just want to kind of see where we're at, and we can take our calipers, and you can use micrometers for this as well. 2 inches, 868. So it looks like about 130 thousandths that we got to take off that side over here. So I'm going to repeat the way that I cut that side. I'm just going to kind of hand feed it about 5 thousandths a pass and see how it reacts. And I have brought it up 10 thousandths off the bottom too. I surely can't see anything. Okay, it's cutting. Yep. All right, I'm going to see if I can watch it this time with my mirror. Oh yeah. Seems like it's not doing too bad at all, so I think I'm going to stick to my 5 thou and let it cut it a couple of times. Try to get the deflection out of it. All right, we're doing pretty good. Longtime viewers of my channel will know that sirens are a big part of the area that I live in. And why Pensacola has so many EMS first responders going all times of the day, I don't know. We have traveled to a lot of places now in our adventures, And I can tell you, I've never been to a city that's as active with ambulances and fire trucks as Pensacola is. It kind of boggles the mind. All right, I think our process is working pretty good right here, taking it nice and easy. There's another ambulance coming. That was what, less than a minute ago? I have been out there on the patio and counted 6 ambulances within 5 minutes. Sometimes just the normal. Boy, that sunlight's doing awesome. It's coming right through that side door, right onto the vise right here. Giving you guys some pretty good light. I think I'm just gonna kind of keep this up since y'all have the best light of the day right now. I'm gonna take this to 100 thousandths and I'm gonna remeasure it and see where we're at. Right now we're at 95, so let me take one more pass. Take a couple of spring passes and then we'll measure it. Looks like we got about 50 thousandths. Still got about 50 thousandths to come out of there. I think I landed on my 3-inch width that I want. I just checked it. So with calipers, 3-inch, 3 thousandths, which is right in that range of what I was going to be shooting for. I was trying to keep it between that and about 5 thousandths. 3 inches, 5 thousandths. So our vise dynamic jaw should slide through there on the bottom side, right where it's at. I'm going to check the back side and make sure it's good to go too. But we've got to do all that twice. We've got to duplicate it up on the top side. And there's another siren. But anyway, I was happy to see this measurement right here. That is right where we were hoping to get it, right there. Awesome. All right, well, we got the bottom side finished out now. Both corners finished. We got it to our 3-inch width that we want. So now we've got to come in here and do both of the top corners. And I'm gonna save that for the morning. You can see that the sun has finally just about gone down. And I'm ready to call it for the night, get some dinner, relax, get some rest, come out here first thing in the morning and we'll get started on this. And with any luck, we're gonna get this guy finished out tomorrow. Get those 2 top corners cut in. But I wanna say that it's going pretty well. Once you get the setup figured out and you know the system, you know the machine, how the tool's gonna react, how the bar is gonna react, it's going pretty smooth now. When I first started, it makes me a little bit nervous because those tools can dig in and break on you. I mean, there's all kinds of things that could happen. So you got to be really careful with this stuff. Take your time, double check yourself that you don't crash something like we did earlier when we pulled the tool in there and broke it off. Luckily that didn't do anything, but it's things like that that can happen in an instant if you don't pay attention. Add on top of that the challenge of trying to get video to share with you guys, but I like sharing these projects with you. I know that you guys like watching it, so I'll always record these things and share it on the channel. But I am excited to get this guy finished up. It's been a lot of work getting to this point and we are almost done. I can kind of see the finish line in the distance. We've just got a little bit more to do. All right, guys, it is the next morning, bright and early. I'm already back out here. Got our tool bit ground touched up to make the next cut. I want to show you how I measured this, how I inspected our tool grind so that we can carry on with our machining. All right, so I've got our tool bit ready, but I wanted to show you how I measured this to make sure that I have a nice straight cutting edge. We're going to be coming in here and doing this corner. All right, so I want this side of our tool bit to be as straight up and down as I can get it. All right, so I got this nice big heavy duty parallel right here, and I went ahead and pulled out my Starrett number 599 planer and shaper gauge. If you guys don't have one of these, I would encourage you to find one and add it to your toolbox because they're extremely universal and useful for many different applications. All right, it's ground on all sides. You have a lot of right angles there that you can use for measurements and inspections. So I went ahead and used it in this configuration to check this side of our tool grind right there. All right, and if you put some yellow or white paper behind it, you can see that it's pretty darn close. That's about as close as I can get it by hand grinding it. That's how I do all these tool bits. I just touch them up by hand. So that's going to work really well right there. I mean, that's about as spot on as you can get it doing it by hand. Now the top edge here, you know, how do we get in here and measure across the top, or inspect it anyway, to see what kind of angle we have? This one, I want a little bit of relief angle going away from the cutting edge so that we're not rubbing that side whenever we're coming across making our cut across the top there. So again, using the 599 shaper gauge, I use the extension pin. These are ground to be nice and true once you screw everything together. And I just simply stuck it in here like so. All right, and get it sitting right there above the tool. I know it's a little bit hard for you guys to see this, but again, with the yellow paper behind it, and I can actually, let me see if I can get that. I can actually see a little bit of relief angle. I think you can see it in the video there. We got just a little relief angle behind the tip, and that should work out really good to clear the tool, or to clear the workpiece as it's feeding across, so we're not gonna, you know, be trying to dig in. All right, so just wanted to show you guys that. This was the simplest way to get in there and check that. You know, I was trying to set up these little machinist squares. It's easy. You can use a machinist square really easily for checking that one there, but then you got to get a little bit more creative and setting up another 90-degree attachment with a rule to go across that way. And I just landed on the 599 being the simplest way to inspect that hand grind there. All right, so I need to hone the tool, but other than that, we're ready to set up and start cutting this top left corner. We're ready to start making our first cut. We've got everything ready to go. The reason why I've got it retracted back so far from the start of the cut is so that I have room to get in here and do some measuring. What I'm going to be doing is continuing to use my Starrett 599 shaper gauge, and once we're ready to do a measurement, we'll be able to use it in this configuration. We can stick it right on that bottom side that we cut and come in here and use the pin to be able to get this set, lock it in, and then slide this out, and we can just measure that to see what our distance is. So from the cast, measuring it off the cast, we have approximately 110 thousandths to come off of the top right there. The width of our dynamic jaw, or should I say the height of it, is 4.8 inches. So we're going to be shooting for somewhere around 4.805 is my target. I don't know how it's going to feel. I don't know how it's going to fit in there once we get this cut, if that's going to be too tight or not, but those are the tolerances we're trying to cut it to, and we'll fit it. And if for some reason it doesn't fit, or if it's too tight, we need some more clearance, then we can go in on two of the edges and try to trim it out as needed. But let's go ahead and get started with our cut. Let me bring this through, and I'll show you guys this as well, how it's going to end up on this other side there. All right, there we go. That's where our stroke will end, just past the cut. So let's go ahead and start our cut now. All right, we're going to be feeding my direction. Feed engaged. Kick it up to 20,000 step over. And then I forgot to mention this. So I have this dial indicator set to a 0 here, so once the table feeds this way and it comes to that first 0, that's where I have it set when it's touching the cast iron. Oh, there we go. There's our first chip. Twenty thousandths depth of cut is what we're taking on this, by the way. It's looking pretty good. All right, 40 thousandths away. Just gonna hand feed it the last 20 thou. All right, there's our 0. We're just touching that sidewall. Okay, second pass, another 20 thou. Looking good. All right, I want to get in here and take a measurement with our planer gauge. That feels pretty good. You just have to try to tighten up that finger screw, pull it out and not mess with it. Sirens have been heavy this morning. All right, so this is our measurement we just took. You can use calipers, you can use micrometers. Obviously your micrometer is going to be a little more accurate, but for what we're doing here, this is going to be fine. So 4.737, we want to take it to 4.805, so we still got a few cuts to make. I try to keep the work surface clean and put all my tools right over there on the end of the table when I'm done using them for measuring. Just took another measurement with our shaper gauge there. I've still got approximately 45 thousandths to come out of our height right there. So gonna make a couple more passes just like we're doing 20 thousandths, and then we'll make some finishing passes where I'll drop it down from the 20 thousandth step over down to the 10 thousandth step over to make our finished cut. So just more of the same, but I'll try to get in there with my phone and get a couple close-ups of the chip making action anyway. All right, I think that might have been my finished pass. Go in here and get a measurement on it. I figured out that by rotating the shaper gauge 180 from the way I had it earlier, is that it's easier to get to the thumb screw here. And then I tighten it up, and you can feel it. And you know, you don't want it tight, but if you got it squared up, it'll slide through there without any rock. You just slide it out nice and easy. Make sure that's tight. All right, and then let's get it oriented right. So we're looking for 4.805 is my target. 4.804, make sure I'm squared up good. 4.804. So technically that's going to give us about 4 thousandths clearance right now. I think that's going to be okay. I think we're just going to leave it like it is for now. My plan is to try to get it cut to the tolerance that I'm looking for, and then check it to see if the jaw is going to slide through there, if we have any kind of alignment issues, things like that, because getting the sides aligned, I think, is going to be the most trickiest and difficult operation of this whole job that we're doing right here. But I think that's pretty good right there. So now we're going to go ahead and work on the side. And I did confirm with Jason at Fireball that the tolerance, I asked him, I said, what is a tolerance that you give these things? And he says he shoots for 5/1000. 5/1000 is probably what they have at the factory. I never did measure the other one at the other shop, but he says 5/1000 is what you're shooting for, up to 20/1000. So if we have up to 20/1000 clearance in this, I believe that's going to be acceptable, probably for manufacturing purposes. So we have a pretty loose tolerance there of, I'd say 20/1000 or less is what we'd like our hole to be oversized for our jaw to fit. All right, so we're going to move on and try to get this side cut in now. I decided to change up how I'm going to be actually feeding in this. Instead of feeding the entire width of the tool over into the side, we're actually going to power feed. We're going to use the Shaper's vertical up and down feed feature on this, which is not something that you typically do on a Shaper. Usually you're using this feature right here, which is the automatic down feed on the tool head. You use the tool head itself, and you should always keep this locked. But I think it's going to be easier to go ahead and unlock this and use our power feed to come from the bottom up to that top surface that we just machined and cut the side in. And that way I know it'll be nice and vertical, and we shouldn't have any issues that way. So all I did was I just retouched the tool. Instead of making it completely square against the side, I've actually given it a little bit of relief underneath the tool, so that you're only cutting on the point as we feed upwards to that top corner right there. All right, I got everything set up. I'm trying to make sure that I have the machine operating correctly. I have my limit set, but we are making our first pass across the side of the pad over there. I am using the power feed on the knee right here. And one of the things that I forgot to, I didn't realize, because I've never actually used the knee for power feed up and down. That is a fine pitch screw down there. So the feed rate at which this feed box is designed to work is really only for the cross feed right there, that very coarse screw. So I've got this set at 180,000 step over, and it's moving about, I think it was about 10 thousandths per stroke right there. Now the other problem with that, as you can see, as soon as it gets to the end of the stroke, it actually starts feeding. So when it comes to that first pad, it's actually dragging on it on the way back. But we're making light cuts. I don't think it's going to hurt it. After I make this first pass, I'll inspect it and see how it's looking. But I think it may work just fine. It's just not the perfect situation. It's not ideal. But I've got this indicator here set to a 0. Once it gets all the way to the end of the travel, it'll be 0, and 0 will be our top height where we'll stop at. And then I'm using this guy right here for my travel across here for our depth of cuts. Well, so far it's working out, and I think if I can get this to continue cutting the way it is, without any kind of galling issues on the backside from that feed, I think we're just going to roll with it and just use it. Otherwise, I would have to hand feed it with the tool head here, which is what I was trying to eliminate having to do. But I will. All right, so I got another 100 thousandths to go, and I should be at our top height there. We're slowly ticking away at it. After this pass, I'm going to have somewhere between 10 and 15 thousandths still come off this side. So we'll get that done, but it's tedious work. It's kind of time consuming here doing this, watching it. And I think you guys have seen enough video of it stroking back and forth, making this cut to know what's going on here. But we'll get this side finished out. All I'm gonna do is just take a measurement, take a finished cut. We're matching the bottom. And then when we do, we're gonna reconfigure our tool to this corner over here and hopefully get finished. But it is working out pretty good. Once you get the whole system figured out and what you gotta do, then it starts going along pretty easily and you get a kind of a rhythm on how to move the table, make your offset, start the cuts and all that kind of stuff. But it's working out pretty good. We'll get this side finished out and I'll show you our setup for the other corner and then get moving on that next. All right, I think we've got this corner now finished up. What I was doing to try to get this in the same plane, I'm gonna go ahead and say that it's not ideal, but I think it's gonna work. But I haven't really come up with a really clever solution to be able to make sure that this cut here, this plane, is in complete alignment with the cut that we made right there. I have nothing over here to reference to be able to measure this and this, okay? So what I've been doing, this casting is pretty consistent, and this is where I'm saying, I know this isn't right, but this is the way I ended up doing it. I measured the bottom here, or where our cut ended up, and it's measuring 0.965, okay? And so all I've been doing is taking measurements up here and trying to get this side equal to that. And I've got it there, it's 965. We're within a half a thousand, so it depends on where you mic it at, but we got 965 there, and we got 965 down here. Let me get there where the cut is. And we got 965, where's the cut? There it is, 965, okay? So I feel good that it's probably within 1/2 thousandths of being, you know, hopefully this is nice and straight and is consistent on thickness, but I just couldn't come up with another really clever idea on how to make sure that these were completely in line with each other. That was one of the disadvantages of doing it over here the way that I've got it set up. So hopefully it's good. We're gonna go ahead and clock this around to this corner over here and go ahead and get to cutting. Since we're feeding both directions, I'm not gonna be concerned about having our tool ground and honed exactly on a straight line with the edge. We're gonna make sure we have clearance so that we can just use the point of the tool to feed over and feed up, just like we did on this side. Okay, we are set up for this last corner. I've got the cut ready to go. We got about the same amount of material to take off of both corners, approximately about 115 to 120 thousandths off the top and then off the side. So more of the same cuts. I've got my rhythm set up now on what I got to do on the feed. So we're going to be feeding across the top. I take this down to our 0. And then to dial in our cuts, I use this guy right here and just bring it up every time. All right, we're just gonna get a measurement on our height right here. We're getting pretty close. I think we're within, I don't know, 40 or 50 thousandths maybe. Actually, I went the other way. If you go this way, it's a little easier to tighten up that finger screw. So you gotta kind of make sure it's seated and you can feel it. Get a measurement on it. All right, I'm just going to call that 4.760. So that's 45 thousandths that we still got to come out of it. I'm taking 20 thousandths a pass. So that's 10 and 20. All right, and I've already, whenever I bring the tool back, I always move it over. I use that indicator. I go 360 thousandths. I'm sorry, 370 thousandths the tool that way. That way when we start our cut, it's clearing it and then we'll start feeding. So we'll go ahead and pull the clutch lever, turn that on, and engage feed right there. And you can see it feeding on that one, 20 thousandths per step over. That's all it is to it. Simple, right? It's a beautiful day outside. Feels like springtime. About 60 degrees, low humidity. It's a great day to have the doors open in the shop. I got the side door open so we can get a little airflow through here. I love days like this when we can run the shaper and have the door open. I just measured, we had 10 thousandths to take out of it, so this is gonna be our finished cut right here, or what I'm assuming to be our finished cut. I'll measure it when we're done and see where we're at. But I think after this, we only have that one side left to cut. I'm excited about test fitting the dynamic jaw to make sure that it fits. I'm hoping that it goes in there the first try, but we may have to do a little bit of trimming again to get it to fit. We don't know yet, just speculating. All right, so that was our finished pass. Let's see where we finished this out at. I was shooting for 4.805. I think we're within a thousandths of that. So technically that should be good. That should give us about 5 thousandths clearance. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and get set up to do this sidewall and get started on that. All right, this is our first pass on the sidewall there. I'm just gonna make a couple of cuts across there. That way I can start getting a measurement on it and see how much we gotta take off. But every side has been consistent, a little over 100 thousandths, somewhere around 115, 125 thou is what it's been. Okay, I think we may be there. I just checked it. We locked it in. Got that to where that can slide in. Measuring it with calipers. We're measuring 3 inches and 4 thousandths. So with it continue to be locked, the bottom, it goes into the bottom, but I tell you what, that bottom feels a little bit snug on this. So that could be a problem. All right, that's the tightest spot, is this one right here. We'll go around here to the back. All right, we can fit it in the top. Bring it down here. We can fit it in the bottom. So technically we should be there. I think it's time to go ahead and just give it a test fit to see if the jaw is going to fit in there now.